Hello everyone, DM Gashbad here, bringing you another battle report for our Warhammer Fantasy 8th Edition Escalation campaign. We are on round 5. This will be the last normal round before our big multiplayer battle. We are up to 900 points plus our 250 point monster from the round before. The scenario is called Reign of Mansters. It's a pretty straightforward scenario. The only special rules are that the monsters we bring, and again, they don't have to be part of your normal army list, we just get them. They don't have to be your army book, they can be from the Storm Magic book, and they can, of course, be above and beyond the limits for special rare troops, that kind of thing. Anyway, in this battle, they are worth double victory points for your opponent if they take them off the table. Also, every time you hit one of these monsters, you roll a d6. On a 5+, you get a prestige point, which is a special point that you get to spend on troops and magic items for the final multiplayer battle at the end. As always, I am using my Empire Force. We're sticking with the same army from game to game. In fact, most of the army has to be the same between game to game. You only get to swap out about 100 points worth of troops, plus the additional troops that you buy with your extra 100 points that you get. So at most, 200 points of your army are going to change. Anyway, we have Captain Khurgee. He is my general. He's a captain of the Empire. He is equipped with full plate armor. He is on a barded warhorse. He has a shield, and he also has the Sword of Might that he picked up for free in the first round of the campaign. Next to him is Jerem McCroth. He is my warrior priest. He is armed with heavy armor. He carries the enchanted shield and the Sword of Battle for +1 attack. Again, another free item he picked up in round 1. To the left, we have the Ruddy Reavers. Those are 21 swordsmen with full command. They have 2 detachments. We have the West Watch, which are 10 handgunners, and we have the Grey Hill Poachers, which are 5 archers. I have a particular tactic in mind with these specific detachments. Hopefully you'll get to see that in the course of the battle. To the right, we have the Angry Mob. Those are 20 free company with full command. And in the back, we have the Riding Roughshods. Those are my Inner Circle Knights. We've got 5 of them with full command. And in the dead center, we have Clortho the Tombbreaker. He is my Lammasu. He has got the Mace Tail and Sorceress Exhalation upgrades. He is also a level 2 Fire Wizard. If you'll remember, he was a wandering monster in the round before, and I guess my Empire Force tamed him or negotiated with him in some way, so now he's on our side. We also have the Boom Stump, which is my Great Cannon. All told, that's about 1,150 points, and it's a pretty reasonable mix of troops. The Great Cannon was a bit of a no-brainer choice. I knew my opponents would be bringing big monsters. The Great Cannon is a really effective way of dealing with those creatures. Maybe I shouldn't have done it, but I did already have it painted, and it would have been really hard for me not to bring that in my force. For the Daemons of Slaanesh have gone and found some friends. So first of all, the general of the army is a Herald of Slaanesh. That Herald has been given the Greater Locus of Swiftness, which gives it and everything in its unit the Always Strikes First special rule. It also has the Sword of Might, which is another free magic item it picked up in round 1. It is being accompanied by 17 Daemonettes of Slaanesh with full command and the Banner of Swiftness, so they get a +1 movement. In the center of the table, they have made friends with Tzeentch for this battle, so they have brought along 10 Horrors of Tzeentch. They are considered a level 1 wizard, and they have the Bolt of Change special rule. The Bolt of Change is 24 inches range. It does hit a really high strength with the multiple wounds rule, so it does like D3 or so wounds. Anyway, that's a great spell to have if you're looking to, say, blow up a Lammasu who is worth double victory points. The Lammasu does have the Sorceress Miasma special rule, which means it has magic resistance 3, so it has a 4+ ward save against things like magic missiles, but that's not something I really want to rely on if I'm getting blasted by like these things. Moving on, we have a unit of 3 Blood Crushers, a unit of 3 Fiends of Slaanesh, and in the center of the table we have a Hydra. This is the Hydra from the Storm of Magic rules, so it has got the Envenomed Fangs rule, so it gets an extra attack with the Poison Attack special rule. So here's the battlefield all set up. It's getting a little crowded now, so we're still playing on a 4x4 table, which is appropriate for small points values, but we roll up D4 +1 pieces of terrain, and we rolled the maximum, so we have 5 pieces of terrain on the table. Starting from left to right, we have a Mysterious Forest. Then we have a Mist-Wreathed Swamp. That's the really bad one, where if anyone ends up in that swamp at the end of their movement phase, they take an initiative test, and if they fail, they lose like D6 models or something like horrendous about that. So there's mysterious Fimir living in there that just drag people to their doom if they hang out in the swamp too long. I put that in the center of the table because I have kind of a shooty army right now. I do not need to get into hand-to-hand combat with a bunch of demons right away. So I thought that would cause a lot of trouble to people, especially things like monstrous cavalry, which have problems with difficult terrain. To make sure things are nice and cluttered up as well, we have a normal building in the center of the table, as well as a Tower of Blood off on the other end of the deployment zone. So the Tower of the Blood is the one that gives units within 6 inches of it hatred, and units from the destruction forces, which would include the demons, that gives them frenzy as well. So my opponent went and put that into deployment zone, but fortunately I got to choose which deployment zone I wanted, so I chose the one not with the tower in it, because I do not need a bunch of frenzied demons coming at me. And finally, off on the right, we have another ordinary building. So my opponent went and super weighted his right-hand flank, so my left-hand flank. So all of his troops went over there looking to do a big rush down one side and roll up one of my sides. The Hydra he waited till the very last moment to deploy because it wanted to hide from the cannon. And so it is tucked behind the building so that it can advance without taking too many shots. So the reason my opponent went and piled everything over there, I believe, is because the obvious path to get to my troops would be on the right-hand side. So that is where I set up all my guys. I set up this nice defensive area looking to really pour fire into this alleyway on the other side of the table, and my opponent said, nope, I'm not going to set up there. So he went through, even though he'd have to deal with all that really kind of ugly terrain, he thought it was better than just running straight into the teeth of my guns and my countercharges. So you can see on the right-hand side in that building, I've got my handgunners deployed, and they are within 3 inches of their parent unit, which is the swordsman where Jerem McCroth, my warrior priest, is stationed. My archers are positioned in front of the swordsman. They are looking to do some diverting. Then in the middle, we have the general with unit of knights. And I forgot to mention, last round I failed so many leadership tests. I just failed leadership test after leadership test with these knights that I said, hey, why have I not taken the Banner of Discipline? The knights now have the Banner of Disciplines. That gives them and any characters inside the unit +1 leadership. So now my general is effectively leadership 9, so he's giving all that leadership to the nearby troops, which is really handy when everyone that I face causes fear. So then the Free Company are over on the left, tucked in at the end of my line, just looking to be more of a speed bump than anything else. The Great Cannon is piled behind all of the terrain I can muster. I think if anything gets to that, it's got to really take some dangerous terrain tests, and it's going to take a while. And so I felt like that was reasonably safe. And then I put the Lammasu off on the far left, just looking to harry the flanks of my opponent's force. Of course, that doesn't really work when they're all over on the left, but he's super mobile, he flies, he should be okay. So I win the roll to go first, which is great because I have a cannon that I want to shoot at things, and so I kind of just stay where I am. The archers go ahead and advance a little bit because they want to be diverters, and so they want to hold up that Hydra as long as they possibly can. The swordsmen tuck forward just a touch. They want to stay within 3 inches of those archers. The Free Company back up a bit. We're going to try and swing our lines to face this rough right-hand flank that my opponent is throwing at me. And the Lammasu has a very specific place that it wants to be. So, the horrors can move at maximum 8 inches, and the spell that they have is 24 inches. So I do not want to be within 32 inches of the horrors because I don't want to get blasted with that spell. So the Lammasu goes and hangs out, still looking at the horrors, but outside of 32 inches. So with movement settled, we're going on to the magic phase, and I go for the big fireball. So it's a 36-inch range, and I do not want to deal with those horrors. They are a big threat to my sack of victory points named Clortho the Tombbreaker. So he is going to cast the completely powered up fireball spell. So the level 3 fireball spell, the 3d6 strength 4 hits at 36-inch range, and he's going to throw it at the horrors. So I go, and I get irresistible force. Could be good, could be bad. In the long run, it is great because I roll just enough above average to wipe out that entire unit. So in that one spell, my Lammasu just goes and polishes off all of the ranged threat that my opponent has. that is giving him free reign of the battlefield, basically. So long as he is not standing in front of a charge arc of any of those other monsters, he can just zip around, get into position, throw spells. This has really taken a lot of heat off of my armor. It was a good idea for my opponent to bring a unit like Horrors with ranged attacks, but he got unlucky. There's nothing he could have done about this. I just got the dice, I blasted him straight off the table, and I'm feeling like I am in a great position. But we do have to go and resolve the miscast, and we get the magical feedback. So all of my people that generate power dice go and take a certain strength hit. And it goes and wounds Jerem, so now he's down to just 1 wound. And it wounds Clortho the Tombbreaker as well. So he only starts with 4 wounds, so now he's down to 3. But still, I think that's a great trade. I still have a couple of power dice left after all that, so I'm going to go and cast Fulminating Flame Cage on the Fiends. So that means that they're going to take D6 Strength 4 hits, and if they move, every model in the unit takes another Strength 4 hit. So really, I just want to pick away at that unit and maybe make them think about not moving, because they are stupidly fast. They're like movement 10 or so. Anyway, that spell goes off, aided a bit because my opponent no longer has a wizard. The Fiends go and take 1 wound, get the flame cage cast around them. We go on to the shooting phase. The archers don't hit the Hydra, and the cannon goes and misses. It tries to bounce through both the Fiends and the Blood Crushers. I don't know exactly what happened either. I rolled a 1 to wound, missed them all together, or one of the creatures made their ward save. Anyway, no damage done by the cannon, so it is on to my opponent's turn. And it is full speed ahead on the left-hand flank. So the Demonettes charge as fast as they can up towards the swamp. The Fiends go on this long flanking maneuver. They don't care about that flame cage at all. They take the hits. No damage is caused, so good for the Fiends. And the Blood Crushers thunder along behind all those guys. The Hydra moves forward as well, but still doesn't want to get shot at by that cannon, so it goes and hides behind the building in the center of the table. Nothing significant happens in the Reign of Chaos table in the magic phase, and so we're back to Empire turn. The Grey Hill Poachers are charged with going to find out what happened to the Hydra, so they move up on the other side of that building and they try and play hide and seek with the big monster. The Free Company pivot a bit to face the Demonettes and the Fiends. The Lammasu, now that the Horrors aren't around and the Hydra is facing the other direction, just goes and flies in the center of the table, looking to throw its breath weapon, looking to throw spells at just the advancing hordes of demons, knowing that it is relatively safe from counterattack. I had to think about my cannon for a little bit. So the cannon was vulnerable because those Fiends are so fast. So if I left it where it was, it could get a shot off, but it would probably be charged by the Fiends in the next round. And because my opponent knows what tactical wheels are, that probably means that the Fiends are going to eat the cannon and then follow through into the flank of my Free Company. And I was just kind of on the edge of the Fiends' normal range. So it would have taken a fairly average roll for the Fiends to get in there. So what I opted to do, I opted to forego my cannon shot. I'm not going to fire with the cannon this round, and instead it just moves about 4 inches to my right, and that just makes it a little bit harder for those Fiends to actually make it to the cannon. They're probably not going to make that charge now. What I really want to do is I want to preserve the shot of this cannon for the Hydra. So now my opponent has a choice. He can keep the Hydra hidden until the cannon is dealt with, or, he can just take the shot and move out, and that would mean that he's not wasting a whole turn with his Hydra. I could have taken a shot at the Hydra from where my cannon was. The Hydra is so big that all its heads stick out over the building, so I believe I could have aimed for a shot, but the thing is, if I didn't land right on the Hydra, it would have hit the building and the cannonball would have stopped. So it's pretty unlikely that I was going to get a hit through. Plus, of course, the Hydra has a 4-up regen save, so I just didn't like my odds. So I decided I was going to preserve my points for a little bit. They're going to just unlimber the thing, they're going to get the wheels moving and roll it off and see how that works out. So we are on to the magic phase again, and Clortho the Lammasu manages to cast Fulminating Flame Cage on the Fiends again. Again, I really just kind of want to slow these guys down, or even pick off one of those guys would be great, knock off like a third of their combat potential. Anyway, I managed to do 1 wound to the Fiends and cast the Flame Cage on them again, so that's a good start to the magic phase. Unfortunately, that's the only spell that I cast that round, and even more unfortunately, I cast it with Irresistible Force again in order to do that. So I go and roll up the magical feedback again. So again, Clortho is wounded, so he's down to half his wounds remaining, and he's done all the damage to himself. Even worse, Jerem now has that one wound remaining, and so he's going to take this strength 6 hit, but I luck out. I roll a 1 to wound Jerem, and so he is alive. So that is it for the magic phase. We're on to the shooting phase, and my Lammasu goes and hits the demonettes, just all of them with that big template of the sorceress exhalation. He goes and kills 7 of them, which is okay, I guess. I was really looking forward to that shot because it was just beautiful. Anyway, I will absolutely take that. That's a big chunk of that unit that I don't have to deal with anymore. None of the rest of my shooting is doing anything this round, so we move on to demon turn. So at this point, the demons are really feeling on the back foot. They're taking a lot of casualties, they're losing units, and they've got this nasty terrain between them and my troops. I'm still looking really solid in the center there with my knights and my swordsmen. So they have to take some chances. The demonettes and the fiends go and declare charges. Both of them need a double 6. So the demonettes go and charge the militia, and the fiends go and charge the cannon. Now, the fiends could have more easily gone into the militia, but honestly, they're probably going to eventually lose that combat. So they decide to go for broke and eat the cannon. And the demonettes, they also have a little bit of a problem because if they don't make contact, they could end up in that swamp, and even though their initiative is really good, they could start taking casualties. On the other hand, they won the last game that I played these guys with a double 6 charge, so this absolutely could work, especially for the fiends who have the swift stride rule. Fortunately though, neither of them go and hit that double 6, so my militia and my cannon are safe for the time being. My opponent does get a little lucky because the demonettes actually go and manage to roll so badly that they don't end up going into the swamp at all. I think they might have rolled a double 1, so they just shuffle a little bit forward and don't have to worry about Famir dragging them off. And the fiends, while they don't make the charge, they also don't get hurt by the flame cage. So that's 2 rounds in a row that they have gone and just ignored the burning cage around them, thundered through it, and not taken any damage. In further moves, the Blood Crushers just go and meander behind the rest of the lines, and the Hydra goes and springs out to the right of the building, ready to go eat some humans. It's waited long enough, its time is coming, and again, my opponent feels like he has to take some risks at this point, otherwise I'm just going to continue to pull ahead. But here's where the battle gets interesting, and I mean interesting in the worst way possible. Actually, that's not to say that this is a bad game, this is a great game, but remember all those times that I complained about the Reign of Chaos table, and I said, this is such a miserable rule, and I really, really hate this rule. Even though it doesn't tend to do a lot in the course of the battle, well, we're going to come to the Reign of Chaos portion of the magic phase, and we roll up Rot, Glorious Rot, which is Nurgle. Nurgle pays attention to the battle and decides to slap some blights on some of my troops. So we roll d6 for all the units on the table that aren't in hand-to-hand combat, which are all of mine, and we roll up the 6s for my handgunners, who go and get 3 of themselves killed by this plague that sweeps through the unit, and we hit the knights. So the knights go ahead and take d6 plus 3 strength 3 hits. And I think, well, that's actually pretty reasonable for a Reign of Chaos result. So he goes and rolls 5, so I get 8 strength 3 hits on the knights. And he rolls really well, so he gets like 5 wounds through. And I think, oh, okay, well, still, I should be able to shrug that off, no problem. And then he reveals that it allows no armor save, which I guess makes sense if it's just a disease going through your guys. But that was shocking because that kills off the entirety of the knights. They are all gone because of this Reign of Chaos table. Again, not an attack, not a thing that I could defend against, anything like that, unless I wanted to hurl my knights into hand-to-hand combat as soon as possible. But, yep, just rolls up the thing, lose all your knights, they're all dead. There goes your banner of discipline, by the way, so now your general is left all alone with back down to his regular leadership 8, and he has a panic test to make, which he immediately fails, because it's Captain Khurgee, and of course he does. So just a couple of random rolls on a table, and there goes one of my hardest hitting counterpunch units, killed, no questions asked, and my general goes and takes off from the battlefield. So, Obviously, that was terrible, and I get to complain about the Reign of Chaos table some more. But on the other hand, this game just got a lot more interesting. As it was, I felt like I can kind of just huddle down, continue firing, do the counterattacks when the demonic troops come forward. But now I'm in trouble. Now my center is gone. Now I have leadership problems. Now I have combat potential problems. And I am not feeling anywhere near as confident as I was a second ago. The handgunners passed their panic test. Just mentioning that for Captain Khurgee there. The peasants did it. So it's back to my turn, and I kind of have to scramble. So the archers go and move up in front of the Hydra. They're not exactly diverting him, but they're at least trying to slow him down. So he's got to charge them if he wants to charge something, and then he's got kind of a long overrun if he wants to get into those swordsmen. I also position them kind of carefully so that I'm sure to have a shot with the cannon through the archers to the Hydra itself. The Lammasu goes and flies behind enemy lines, just trailing behind him, hopefully throwing fireballs, and the rest of my troops just kind of pivot a bit to keep everything in their front arcs and waiting for the inevitable onslaught. So my two major concerns this round are the Hydra and the Fiends. So in the magic phase, the Lammasu goes and targets the Fiends with a fireball. I managed to get that spell off. Just a low-level version. I do 2 wounds. That kills off a Fiend and puts 1 wound on one of the ones remaining. And just for the heck of it, I go and cast Flame Cage on them again, because it's got to work eventually, right? Well, the D6 strength 4 hits that it gets immediately. It doesn't do any damage. And I don't have high hopes that they're going to be bothered by the strength 4 hits that they take when they move. I think they're still going to move. Importantly, Jerem the warrior priest also goes and casts Soulfire. Now, Soulfire causes a strength 5 hit to any demons or undead that it's in base-to-base contact with the warrior priest when it goes off. And obviously no one's in base-to-base contact with him right now. But it also gives the unit, and more importantly, any detachments, the flaming special rule. And hopefully that's going to come up in a moment. Because now it's the shooting phase, and the handgunners that have been patiently waiting in that building all game finally get to unload their shots into that Hydra. And they have flaming shots right now, so they go ahead and open up a volley on the Hydra. They manage to put 1 wound through it, which goes straight through the regen and takes away its regen for the rest of the round. Which then sets up the cannon shot, who does not disappoint. It manages to hit the Hydra, threading the needle between my archers, blast the Hydra. It doesn't get a regen because it's been taken away by the flaming attacks from the handgunners, and I managed to do the 4 wounds required to take it off the table. So that is giving me a lot of breathing room with that. So obviously that's nearly 500 victory points that I just scored there, as well as taking the major threat on my right-hand flank off the table. I am suddenly back in this game. So it is back to the demon turn, and there's no getting away from this time. The Fiends go and charge the cannon. Straight through the flame cage, no damage. It's what you'd expect. They go and make a tactical wheel so that they're going to overrun into the Free Company flank, as I expected. That's okay, boys. You have done your job. You took out that Hydra. You can go and retire. And by retire, I mean die. The Demonettes decide they can't waste time, they can't go for another failed charge, they have to get moving, so they go and march through the Noxious Swamp. Now that will bring them out on the far side, but one of them does roll the 1 on the dangerous terrain chart, and so the Famir do drag off one of the Demonettes. The Blood Crushers go and march into the forest, just an ordinary forest, don't need to worry about that. They don't take any wounds from the dangerous terrain. In the magic phase, the Reign of Chaos table has decided that it's done enough for the time being, so nothing terrible happens just yet. And we go straight on to the hand-to-hand combat phase, where the Fiends just quickly kill off all my cannon crew, take no wounds in return. The Free Company does pass their panic check, but they do get an overrun charge into their flank from the Fiends. So it is back to my turn, and I have some decisions to make. So the militia are probably going to die. They'll probably hold out for a while against those Fiends, but with the Blood Crushers and the Demonettes coming up on them and being pinned in place and all that, it's only a matter of time before they get perished as well. The Swordsmen are untouched right now, and they are still a pretty strong unit. And I'm also currently ahead on victory points because I've killed off my opponent's monster, but he hasn't killed off mine. So I decide to hold on to the victory point that I have right now and play it safe. So the swordsmen actually go and advance into the building to their right. That means the handgunners have to leave. Oh well, if my detachments die, my opponent doesn't get any victory points. So the handgunners go and advance in front of the building, facing the demonic horde, which is chewing its way through my peasants. The archers just go and turn around so that they can add a volley of fire, and the Lammasu just leisurely follows up behind my opponent's forces, looking to throw more fireballs. We go to the magic phase, and again, I'm looking for the Lammasu to make a big impact on the game, and so I go for the big 3d6 fireball on the demonettes. That is my primary concern right now, because they're the ones that can charge into the building. The blood crushers would not do super well, because they'd have to get off of their juggernauts and go fight, like 21 swordsmen plus a warrior priest with just the 3 bloodletters. So I am going to fire the big fireball at the demonettes, and I managed to make that happen, again with an irresistible force. So that's my 3rd irresistible force this game, which is good in some ways, not in the others. In the short term, it's great because I go and pick off another 6 demonettes, maybe not as many as I was hoping for, but still can't complain. It is now just the Herald and the Command group left in there, so any further wounds that I cause is really going to diminish the combat potential of those guys. Unfortunately, the result I got on the miscast table was power drain. So there goes both of my Lammasu's levels as well as both of its spells. So it is no longer a spellcaster. It had a good game. It had some really good hits that it got out. I cannot complain, but that's it for the rest. There's not going to be a magic phase on my side of the table for the remainder of this battle. So having used up all his spells, having used up his breath weapon, unless I want to throw this guy in combat, and with only 2 wounds left, I don't think I do, this guy is going to have to go find a safe place to hide from now on, because I do not want to give up his victory points. In the shooting phase, the archers go and make me proud and kill off one of the demonettes from that demonette unit, which means the champion actually is the one to take an arrow to the face and goes away, and so great job. Just a couple more to go, and that's a lot of victory points that I can pick up from that unit there. We go on to the hand-to-hand combat phase, and the peasants do okay. They manage to inflict 2 wounds on the fiends, which kills off another one. They do lose 5 farmers in return, but they still hold on a steadfast 7, so they're doing all right. And that is another unit of my opponents that's looking really vulnerable with just 1 model with 3 wounds remaining. But it is back to my opponent for his turn, and here come the Blood Crushers. So they thunder into the militia, don't take any damage from the forest as they storm through, and yeah, that's probably it for those brave peasants. So the demonettes don't love the odds of going and trying to assault the swordsmen in the building, suffering the fire of the handgunners and the archers as they go in. So they actually turn around and go stare at that Lammasu, probably more to keep it honest, to make it think about where it's going to go than anything else. Also, moving like that puts them in the forest, which at least gives them a -1 to hit when my archers and handgunners go and try and shoot at them. Nothing happens in the magic phase as far as the Reign of Chaos is concerned, and we go on to the hand-to-hand combat, and yeah, this was kind of predictable. The demons absolutely go crazy, and all of my farmers go and die. All 15 are killed in hand-to-hand combat. The demons don't take any damage in return, and just go and reform after their victory. So it's back to my turn. The Lammasu goes and passes its leadership test. It needs to go and march, and it just goes and flies to the safety of the flank of my opponent's forces. I cast some prayers in the magic phase. It's not really going to matter. We go on to the shooting phase, and the archers, again, are being champs. They go and pick off another of the demonettes. There goes the demonette musician, even in the cover of the woods, so good job, archers. And then the handgunners, not to be outdone, also open fire, and they manage to kill off the last normal demonette. They kill off the standard bearer. That's another great big chunk of victory points, so this is doing pretty well for me. So long as my swordsmen don't panic off the table and nothing kills my Lammasu, I should be comfortably winning this game. It is my opponent's turn again as we wind down this game. The Blood Crushers, without much better to do, are going to go ahead and charge the archers. Now, I want my archers to live. They've been doing a great job for me so far. So they go and flee from the charge, but they do not flee far enough. The Blood Crushers go and catch them, destroy them, and reform towards my handgunners. So even though I don't lose any victory points, that's still not great. Worse yet, I didn't actually see this coming. With the Blood Crushers out of the way, that opened up the potential for the Fiend to charge my Lammasu. That's not a great charge for the Fiend. First off, that is a toughness 5 monster that is going to have difficulty wounding, and it is a long charge, but even so, it really doesn't take a whole lot of luck for this thing to kill off my monster. Anyway, I get away with it though. The Fiend doesn't manage to make the charge distance, and so it doesn't get into contact with the Lammasu, and yeah, that's a charge that I didn't see coming. Good thing that the numbers didn't come up, but I'm going to have to find a safer place for that guy. The Herald of Slaanesh absolutely does not like the way that this side of the battlefield is going, so it is going to go and hide in the woods. It is tired of getting shot. Let Khorne handle the heavy lifting stuff. And now we go on to the Reign of Chaos table and we get Khorne's Wrath. So Khorne is really happy with how his Blood Crushers are doing. He decides to help him out by going and blasting the people that are cowering in a building and not facing his juggernauts like true warriors. So he throws a flaming skull at the building itself and he makes contact, direct hit. Now this is where I'm really happy that I put those swordsmen in the building, because if they were just standing out in the open, they would have taken this template attack, would have hit a whole bunch of them at a high strength. It would have just killed a pile of them. But because they're in a building, they only take d6 hits. So 3 of my swordsmen get splattered. That's fine. We can take that. We don't have to take a panic test or anything like that. Doing great. The bad news is that Khorne also goes and targets the cowardly Lammasu. And this can easily go and kill that guy. Fortunately, the scatter dice goes down and the template goes and scatters off the Lammasu and doesn't manage to hit it. But that was a real close call as far as this battle goes, because if I had lost the Lammasu, then all of a sudden I'm in trouble. I've already lost my general, lost a bunch of units. I'd probably be down points and there'd be very little chance of me catching up. Anyway, back to my turn. We're going to go and take our Lammasu and hide in the safety of this Tower of Blood. So we should be all right over there. I'm really far away from everything. So hopefully, so long as Khorne doesn't throw another skull at me, I should be great. And then I have to consider a bunch of stuff as far as these swordsmen go. So I can leave them in the building and I'll probably be okay. They're definitely safe from those Blood Crushers. The problem I have is that if the Blood Crushers charge the handgunners, and that's absolutely what they're going to do, if the handgunners flee, they're going to flee through the building and force a panic test on my swordsmen, and if they fail, then they're almost certainly going to leave the table as well, and there goes all my points. Also, if they hold and the Blood Crushers kill them or chase them off the table or something like that, that's also a panic test, and again, these guys can go running off the board. The safest thing for me to do at this point, I believe, is for my swordsmen to actually leave the building on the opposite side. So we're now far enough away from the handgunners that if they die, they're not going to have to take a panic test. There's also nothing pointed at me right now. The Fiend is far away, the Herald is far away, the Blood Crushers are on the other side of the building. I'm okay as far as that goes. I think this is my best shot about just preserving those points and scraping out the win. In the magic phase, prayers are cast, it doesn't matter. We go into the shooting phase, and the handgunners fire their handguns like their lives depend on it, which they absolutely do, even though there's really no chance of them stopping this assault that's coming in just a moment. They do manage to put 2 wounds on the juggernauts. Yeah, it's not enough. We're back to the demon turn. The Blood Crushers are going to make that charge. I'm not going to inflict any further wounds with my stand and shoot. Bit of a spoiler on this one, the Blood Crushers are going to kill all the handgunners for no damage, but that is in the hand-to-hand combat phase. We first have to do the magic phase with the Reign of Chaos table, and we roll another Khorne's Wrath. So again, all my units are targeted, the Lammasu and the swordsmen. I have to roll a d6. On a 6, they get hit by that template again, and no 6s come up. So Khorne is mad, but his aim is off, and he doesn't manage to bomb any of my units, so I get away with it. Okay, so the Gods of Chaos were mad at me this game, that is for sure. But I had a lot of advantage going into it. I had the tools to deal with the Hydra between the flaming handgunner shots and the cannon. Also, once I got rid of those horrors, the Lammasu just had a field day. I mean, 3 irresistible forces, just being able to fly around, not be in any threat whatsoever until I didn't see that charge from the Fiend at the very end. But even then, it was a long charge, and I might have been okay if I hadn't blasted half my wounds away in the beginning. So he had a really good game. Also the terrain, it really helped me. So my opponent wanted to have cover from the cannon as he advanced, but that did slow down his advance, and it also meant that he had a lot of stuff that he had to go around or through. So even though he did end up piling through the swamp and the forest, he did pile all of his guys off on that extreme left-hand flank, which slowed down the demon advance long enough for things like the cannon and the Lammasu's magic to have a real impact. And then it was just a matter of me holding on to the points that I had left. That said, if we didn't have the special rule where the monsters are worth double victory points, this would have been a draw. That said, If this dumb Reign of Chaos rule wasn't a thing, then I think the Empire would have coasted to a pretty easy victory. Anyway, this is one of my favorite games of the campaign. It was real close. There were just these giant swings back and forth, and it was just crazy. That doesn't excuse the Reign of Chaos table. I still absolutely hate that rule, but I do want to thank my opponent. It was a really good game. It was crazy. He was really in a tough position. I mean, he really did have to advance his troops through all this difficult terrain into the teeth of a heavily armed Empire force, especially once those horrors went away in the very beginning, dealing with the magic and the cannon and the shooting. These things are worse at small points values games. They have a bigger impact. But he did real well. He made all the right decisions as far as I can see, and it could have worked out for him. It came really close. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, go ahead and leave them in the comment section below. We are winding down here. We're getting close to the end. One more game against the Tomb Kings, and then the big multiplayer battle, and we are done. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.